What's going on, you guys? Welcome to this edition of the Black and Gold Breakdown on the channel. Today, it is my Steelers mock draft 2.0, and eventually I'll probably release, not probably, I will do a stream, just my full first round mock draft. The last one did pretty well on here. So eventually we'll get to that, but for now, just the Steelers version of it. I released the entire written version of this over Behind the Steel Curtain, so you can go watch that or read that at behindthesteelcurtain.com right now. But right now, I'll give you just my thought process on all the picks, why I made them the way I did, and why I think it's the best thing the Steelers can do right now. So without further ado, pick number 20 in round one. I think if Amarius Mims is there, that's going to be the pick. It's not a secret that the Steelers really like him. And if he's available there, I don't see them passing on him. So Amarius Mims is still my pick in round one. And it makes sense for them schematically where they can move Broderick Jones to left tackle, put Mims at right tackle. Might be a little bit of growing pains. I mean, he's a rookie after all, and he's a raw prospect. But the overall, what comes out in the wash, the potential that he has at right tackle, the potential that the overall Steelers offensive line would have in this case, where it would be Broderick Jones at left tackle, Samalo at left guard, and then James Daniels and Amarius Mims on the right side, and then a center who I will name here in a little bit. That gives them an offensive line that's in a much better place than it was a season ago. And, right now, both Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin have talked about, Broderick Jones is, we drafted him to be a left tackle. We plan on him being utilized as a left tackle. It's just a matter of when. So just reading between the lines of things, like it does feel like they are going to go tackle in the first round. And if Amarius Mims is there where they can get a guy to put it right tackle, move Broderick Jones to the left side, I think that's going to be the pick. So he's been the guy that I've said really since the beginning of this process is, okay, Amarius Mims, it was no secret that they really loved him in Indy during the combine. So if Amarius Mims is there at 20, I think he's going to be the pick. And they're just going to load up this offensive line with Georgia Bulldogs. Round two, a trade. The Steelers trade up from 51 to 38 with the Tennessee Titans. And with the 38th pick in round two, the Pittsburgh Steelers take center Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. And this is an absolute dream scenario for the Steelers if they can get both Mims and Frazier, two guys that have been very connected to them throughout this entire process where, some fans are, trade back in the first round and take Zach Frazier, or stay put at 20 and then trade up, in the early second round to, try to get maybe both of them. If they can get both Mims and Frazier, yes, they'd be starting two rookies on the offensive line, but as we've learned, throughout time, offensive line is really one of those positions where, we saw Creed Humphrey and countless others, and Quentin Nelson, who was a stud right off the bat. Like, offensive line is just one of those positions, similar to like receiver as well, where there's not much of growing pains, or there's, less growing pains than like quarterback, where, it's just a shot in the dark. So having Amarius Mims on at right tackle and then trading up to get Zach Frazier to put at center, man, that's a dream for the Steelers, especially because they want to be a run-first football team. Having Frazier at center, having Mims on the right side, they can do so much more because they pulled Broderick Jones a lot as they pulling right tackle to run left last year. So they can mix in a lot of different run schemes, a lot of concepts in the run game with this offensive line that would be so much better than what they had last season, or even really since Marquise Pouncey retired after the 2020 season. They've been really, it used to be, you look at the Steelers of the 2010s where it was Pouncey, David DeCastro, Al Villanueva was a Pro Bowler at one point. So they had so many good offensive linemen for a decade. And then once they all left, man, they've been really struggling to find really replenish those guys ever since then. So I think that if you can trade up, especially if Zach Frazier's there and you can find a trade partner to trade up with in the second round, you absolutely do it on top of drafting Amarius Mims. And right there's your starting offensive line for the year, where it's Roderick Jones, Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, James Daniels, and then Amarius Mims on the right side. I don't think you can do any better than that right now if you're the Steelers. And if they can pull that off, that's very, very good. That would be a very good job by Omar Khan. So it's something that I'm completely on board with, and hopefully they can find a way to make it happen. In the third round, pick 84, I have them taking wide receiver Jamari Thrash out of Louisville. This is a guy who can eventually become that Deontay Johnson replacement, where he played a lot on the outside. He's really good against man coverage, really good route runner. He looked really good in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Over the last 2 seasons, 124 catches, just under 2,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. So a guy who's really good on the outside at creating his own space, really good route runner, can be the X receiver in the offense. Because again, I understand that George Pickens is tremendously talented and whatnot, but again, not necessarily known for his route running. I don't think he's going to be the X in the offense. I think he's still going to be that Y, where they'll have him run the deep ball, run a slant if they want to move him into the slot. But I don't think he's going to be that guy who creates his own space. So if you draft a guy like Jamari Thrash, who I think has the potential to be one of those guys at the next level, he could end up being a suitable replacement for Deontay Johnson on the outside. And it's a pick that I would really like to see them make again. Look really good in Mobile. I know that most of the talk was about Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. I'd say Jamari Thrash was right in the mix there. It was McConkey, Roman Wilson as well out of Michigan. Jamari Thrash was as good as anybody in Mobile. Ricky Pearsall was down there as well. He's got a lot of links to the Steelers right now. But if they ended up getting Jamari Thrash, I'd be absolutely okay with that. I think that would be a great selection for Pittsburgh in the third round. Pick number 119 in the fourth round. The Steelers take another receiver. They double dip on consecutive picks with wide receiver and take Malik Washington out of Virginia. This guy is one of the best pure slot receivers in this draft, and that's really what the Steelers need after taking Thrash to put on the perimeter. They need somebody who can just be that pure slot guy. Malik Washington can be just that. There's talks about Tyler Boyd and the organization maybe not seeing eye to eye in terms of money and terms and things of that nature. And I understand they've made additions like Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins. They have Calvin Austin, but I don't think any of them are gonna be, the go-to third option in the offense. I think that Austin's gonna end up being that fourth guy. But when it comes to Jefferson and Watkins, at best, they're just gonna be, depth receivers in the offense, and I think that's what it's going to be. And then in terms of Washington, last season, caught 111 passes for just under 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns, had one of the highest yards per route run in the nation at 3.15, and his 35 missed tackles led all of college football last year. So it's not just a guy who, he's not, a small guy that's just going to be, dainty and isn't going to make guys miss. No, he's not going to go down on first contact. So 111 catches last year, almost 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, 35 missed tackles, the most in college football. And he was also second in the nation in receptions from the slot and led the country in receiving yards from the slot. So numbers-wise, he was the best pure slot receiver in college football last year. And if Pittsburgh can get him to complement Jamari Thrash, to complement George Pickens, to complement the run game, and who's to say that they couldn't use him in certain situations, if they wanted to, have, a handful of like a Debo package where they put him in the backfield. I think they would do similar things with Calvin Austin. We saw a little bit of that last year, but Malik Washington, man, a guy who is climbing up draft boards. If he's there in the fourth round, the Steelers should take him and they should run because he's the best pure slot receiver in college football. And I would absolutely love to see him in the black and gold next year. I think that would be a great pick for Pittsburgh. So yeah, they double dip at receiver. And get a starter on the outside in Jamari Thrash, and then they get Malik Washington to put in the slot. Sign me up, man. I would absolutely love that haul at receiver. Because, again, all of the big-name free agents ended up just getting tagged. So that second tier of guys, they're all gone. If you want to throw Tyler Boyd in that second tier, again, it doesn't look like that will happen. Even if it does, though, I would fully expect them to still take another receiver in the draft, just because it's still a position where they aren't completely, filled up in terms of depth. So I think it'd be a great addition for Pittsburgh to get both Jamari Thrash and Malik Washington. And yeah, sign me up for that haul. So first 4 picks, Amarius Mims in the first round. They trade up in the second round to get center Zach Frazier. In the third round, they take wide receiver Jamari Thrash out of Louisville. And in the fourth round, they take Malik Washington, the receiver, out of Virginia. Those are the big 4 picks of this draft in terms of, the picks that'll get the most attention, being that they're, the first 4 rounds. You really the first 3, but the first 4 rounds, those are the rounds that people pay the most attention to when it comes to, how a draft class could look. Round 6, Steelers do not have a 5th round pick this year. So pick number 178 in round 6 is cornerback Kamal Hayden out of Tennessee. And looking at Hayden and looking a little bit more into him, he could be an absolute steal in the 6th round. And any other defensive back class that wasn't this deep, he would probably be either a late day 2 or an earlier day 3 pick. But because this class is so deep, he slides down a little bit. But you look at his numbers, man. He allowed just 12 catches for 96 yards all of last season. He had 3 interceptions. And when targeted, he allowed a passer rating of 7. 7. He allowed a passer rating of 7 when targeted last year. That's a guy that could come in and maybe eventually become the starter opposite of Joey Porter Jr. this season if Dante Jackson doesn't perform to what the Steelers needed. Similar to last season when, they had Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace, both of them severely disappointed, and Joey Porter was starting before midseason. So we know how the Steelers are with this type of thing. I don't think they're going to be in a rush to start a 6th round pick, even if he is incredibly impressive in both training camp and preseason. But that's a guy who by the end of the year could be starting, and then going into 2025, you could have a really good cornerback tandem, a very good young cornerback tandem of Joey Porter and Kamal Hayden. And I think that'd be tremendous to have for the Steelers, having 2 cornerbacks that are really good on rookie deals. That would be a tremendous haul for Pittsburgh. Again, Kamal Hayden only allowed 12 catches for 96 yards last season and allowed a passer rating of 7 and had 3 interceptions. So it could be a really fun pick in the 6th round out of Tennessee. And then Pittsburgh Steelers' final pick of this draft, 6th round pick number 195, taking defensive tackle Marcus Harris out of Auburn. They still need some depth on the defensive line. They did bring in Dean Lowry. But what have we seen from DeMarvin Leal since he came in? What have we really seen from Isaiah Loudermilk since they drafted him? Not a lot. And in terms of Harris, had 7 sacks from the interior last year and 16 hurries. I think that's a guy where if he can display similar tactics of being a versatile, both against the run and wreaking havoc against the pass, if he can show that in preseason, I think that he would lock down a roster spot. And, Pittsburgh could look to try to move on from DeMarvin Leal or Isaiah Loudermilk, whether they can maybe find a trade partner or more than likely just be an outright cut. But that would be a situation where you would have a competition between Leal, Loudermilk, and Marcus Harris out of Auburn. And it's a competition that he could surely win. So that is my Steelers mock draft 2.0. Again, just to recap the entire mock draft. Round 1, pick number 20, Amarius Mims, right tackle out of Georgia. Steelers trade up from number 51 to number 38 in the 2nd round and take center Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. In the 3rd round, pick 84, Pittsburgh takes wide receiver Jamari Thrash. They double dip on receivers and take another one with pick number 119 in the 4th round, taking Malik Washington out of Virginia. And then in the 6th round, taking cornerback Kamal Hayden with the 178th pick, cornerback out of Tennessee. And then with the 195th pick in the 6th round, defensive tackle Marcus Harris out of Auburn. That is my Steelers mock draft 2.0. I will do one more Steelers mock before the draft. I don't get crazy and do like 8 of them. I think 3 is a fine number. You do one ahead of free agency. You do one around this time where that first wave of free agency is really come and gone. And then like the week of the draft, maybe like the day before, like the Wednesday before, I'll release the other one, do a video on it, breaking it down. So that is my Steelers mock draft 2.0. And if if you like this type of content, there's much more that I do. If you're new to the channel, in terms of the Pump Fake podcast, which I stream every episode of here, as well as a bunch of other NFL content that you can find. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. It really helps out the channel. Just past 500 subs, and again, really getting into this and trying it out over the last year. It's a nice little milestone. Now the next one is to get to 1,000. So if you like this, or if you like any of the other content that I do, please like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. Appreciate y'all for tuning into the mock draft. And again, we'll do one more of these before the NFL draft itself, which would be a lot of fun. You can follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL. Follow my written work at USA Today and Behind the Steel Curtain for USA Today. Just did a piece yesterday on why I think the Ravens Super Bowl window is closed. So you can go and read that USA Today right now. And then, like I said, Behind the Steel Curtain, Steelers coverage every single day. And you can go read the written version of my mock draft 2.0, which is live there right now. Appreciate y'all for tuning into the channel. Please like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. And I will see you later on. I'll see you soon.